Do you welcome the stillness that only comes when no one else is around? No voices to answer to, no roles to perform, just the quiet rhythm of breath and heartbeat, sky and earth. At first it can feel like emptiness, like something missing, a vast space that echoes with silence. But stay there long enough and the silence begins to sing. The land around you shifts from background to companion, the rustle of leaves, the delicate dance of light on bark, the whisper of wind weaving through the branches. You begin to notice the small things, the way a single flower leans towards the sun or the texture of a stone warmed by daylight. The world no longer separate from you. It is part of you and you part of it. And in that belonging, a paradox unfolds. Through solitude, connection deepens. The self once fragmented by noise and distraction finds a steady centre. The wild pulses beneath our feet remind us of who we are, ancient, resilient and whole. This is the journey from absence to presence, from alone to connected. Welcome to If These Trees Could Talk.
Today we're recording on Wonnarua land and we're joined by a special guest who is just next door on Darkin Young land. In our conversation, she'll be sharing stories from her homeland and experiences from Palawa country. We acknowledge and pay our respects to Aboriginal people past, present and emerging, and to all who are listening today, wherever you may be and whatever country you're on. I had the privilege of visiting Darkin Young land recently alongside inspiring Aboriginal knowledge holders and learning about its rich stories and deep cultural significance. What an honour it must be for our guests to call this country home. This part of Darkin Young land is home to Mount Yango, a sacred site for both Darkin Young people and many countries across Eastern Australia. It is said to be the place where Bayami, the creator, ascended back to the sky after shaping the land. Unlike other peaks, Mount Yango's flat top tells this story through the very shape of the land itself. For a long time, these stories were hidden or silenced, but they were never lost, passed down through generations by elders and knowledge holders through oral storytelling, art and ceremony. We recognise the connection in what we are doing today, sharing stories, honouring ancestral practices and listening and learning from each other.
It was an incredibly beautiful, amazing personal experience.
I was thinking, oh my God, if Eva could only just see this.
I want to share this with people. People need to feel what it feels like to have that connection to place and be aware of the birds and be aware of the bush tucker around and pay attention to the patterns. The fire of wanting to share was very alive.
It'll be no surprise to anyone that I am obsessed with the Alone franchise, long before it came to Australia. We had a little giggle last episode when Kaya referenced it as an indicator of how to explain the weather on Tassie's west coast, because season 3 was particularly brutal on its contestants. If you haven't watched Alone Australia before today, you're going to want to after this, and you'll find it on SBS On Demand. Alone is a survival series where 10 individuals are dropped into remote wilderness locations, completely solo, with no camera crews, no contact with the outside world. Armed with only 10 chosen items, they must build shelter, find food, and face the mental and physical challenges of total isolation and film themselves while they endure it. The last person remaining wins. It's as much a psychological endurance test as it is a survival challenge, stripping everything back to reveal who we are when there's no one else around. To survive alone, you have to be able to sit with yourself, really sit with who you are. And I'm excited today to learn more about that experience from Eva Angophora, a contestant on season 3 that I immediately connected with. Eva lives not too far from us, just a mountain range away, surrounded by forest, a home built on simplicity, self-sufficiency and joy. It's here, in her role as a rewilding facilitator, that she runs workshops, sharing her love for all things wild and guiding others into their own reconnection with nature. But Eva's deep bond with the natural world didn't begin in childhood. In fact, it's a path she found later in life, shaped first by living in suburbia on the Central Coast and party culture, before a powerful shift led her to leave that world behind and step fully into wild living. For the past 6 years, she's lived mostly outdoors, immersed herself in bushcraft, foraging, building with her hands, tanning animal skins, and nourishing herself from what the earth provides. It's not just a lifestyle, it's a philosophy, shared closely with like-minded community, grounded in rewilding, resilience, and deep ecological connection. When I watched Eva on Alone, that grounding and sense of self was unmistakable. Eva moved through the experience with a quiet kind of power, deeply present and deeply connected. I've shared before how a lot of what I've come to understand about myself and about being human, I've found mirrored in nature. The lessons are all there if you're paying attention. But more than that, nature helps me feel those truths, not just know them. So it's no surprise really that I connected with Eva long before I had the opportunity to speak with her. In this episode, Eva will share her experience. We'll talk about the role of nature in healing, the grounding power of bushcraft and foraging, and how solitude can strip us back to who we really are. We'll chat about survival, resilience, solitude, and the softness that often gets overlooked in conversations about strength. We're really excited to welcome Eva to the Pod Lab to have a conversation with us. We have no plans and all rabbit holes are open. So this could be a wild one, which I think will suit you just perfect given the topic of today.
I love it.
We might go back to your origins and your beginnings and where you grew up and where this passion and life that's filled with philosophy and present and mindful living come from.
Yeah, it's nice to start at the beginning. So I grew up on the Central Coast. I was very lucky to always kind of be about 5 minutes from the beach. So the first 6 years I was down at Kilcare and growing up at Budai National Park and just always really loving being outdoors. But I guess my mum wasn't really a camper. She loves the bush and she loves the ocean, but she likes being comfy and everything. So I wasn't really exposed to, that side of the outdoors lifestyle as a young person. We went on bushwalks and things like that. And yeah, it wasn't until I guess my teens and my early 20s that I started to really develop my own personal relationship with the land as a more deeper, enriching part of my life. But yeah, growing up on the coast, went to Terrigal High School and hung out with all the rebels that kind of just wanted to be against the system. And I feel like I never really fit into, what society tells you need to be like. As a young person, we're so lacking in mentorship as well. So it's you have to fit into this box or you have no idea at all. So I was kind of, in that sense, a bit, I guess, just lost on who I was as a human being on this planet. So that led me down lots of different trails of, exploring, myself through the party realm and getting kind of caught up in that for a long time because that's what you do. That's what all my friends are doing.
100%.
Not me, Mum. I didn't, Mum.
Yeah, I know. Right, don't tell our parents. Yeah. So that's the beginnings in a very nutshell. Yeah.
So you just decided to take off, head around Australia with a friend, which is still that's what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah. Yes, you got your whole life.
Yep. And what was that like after living in suburbia, even though you're in a beautiful part of suburbia? What was it like just to take off and kind of let the shackles loose of modern expectation of what life should look like?
Honestly, it sounds cliche, but it was honestly like coming home, because for the first time in my life, I was exposed to all these different ways of living, and I was meeting people who were living off grid and who were, running permaculture farms and, collecting their own water from the springs and growing things. And I had never been exposed to that before. So I really didn't have an idea that you could choose to live like that. And so that was one of the most incredible things that I did, was to leave my hometown, and just we didn't have a plan. We just said, let's go for a couple of years and just road tripping around the country. And there was obviously some kind of divine plan, because that's really when everything kind of fell into place. And yeah, I still was partying a little bit at the start of that journey, but throughout that journey, it was like my approaching my mid-20s at that point. And I think I was just so full of life from being in nature, like sleeping in the tent and waking up at sunrise and going to bed with the fire. And I was so full of nature that all of a sudden, partying and, all the things that come along with partying, it didn't really line up anymore with where I was going. And so it was quite a radical shift from that party realm. And I just was like, do you know what? This is not what I want to be doing anymore. Like it's kind of like I just fell in love with the land, and then in turn fell in love with, having to have a relationship with myself, which I had never done before. And I see you guys nodding like,
Yeah, this is your soul sister right here.
There are so many parallels in our stories, and my deep dive to nature was during a mental health crisis. My road to what we call recovery is not in a substance sense, but in healing myself, has been completely nature based. I went from being someone who had been medicated from 15 years old, and a psychiatrist, when I was hospitalized, said to me, I'm taking you off these medications. You don't need them. This is not going to treat what you have. And you're going to have to equip yourself with a toolbox of skills and strategies to be able to move forward in a really healthy way. And I was able to take those after years of seeing therapists and trying to do the right thing, and taking this new style of therapy and then deep diving and really working in a mindfulness practice and finding experiences of awe in nature and the natural highs that brings, and the level of joy that you carry forward, not just in an immediate, this just happened way, but in a full, immersive, whole way that really changes the way that you look at everything and relate to everyone.
yeah.
Yeah, I figured that you would be someone who would understand that. Not many people do, and kind of like, oh, you're just like a hippie chick.
Yeah, that term gets me, because I'm like, oh my God, we're actually just being human. Humans are designed to be outside. We're designed to have that deeper connection with the earth. And yeah, it's funny that we have to label these things that appear to be like abstract to the modern mind. But I so resonate with that, because I feel like you cannot gain what nature gives you within like four walls. You can't gain that kind of life force. And it really is just like that life force energy that comes through the sun, through the winds, like through hearing the birds, through seeing the animals, like, and just kind of breathing in that air. That can only be really, it's a full sensory experience that happens when we're out there. And I guess maybe these days, if you're not used to that, it takes time to train yourself to absorb that. Like, some people just have their kind of blinders on and not absorbing that, which is baffling, because it's like, how can you not be receiving all of this incredible, incredible, things that the land is showing us and telling us all the time. But yeah, I think that's the ultimate form of therapy, really, just getting back to basics.
It's almost like the solidarity brings you to the true understanding of connectedness, and not just to yourself, but to the world. Instead of existing parallel to each other, you become
Yes.
part of each other. And once that happens, the possibilities are then endless. It's incredible.
It's so reassuring that we aren't these individual units doing it alone. Like, we are part of the wider web of ecology and creation, and we always have been and we always will be, whether we realize it or not. It's a relief. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, there's not an experience that I can think of that I have gone through as a human that I can't see mirrored somewhere in nature.
For sure, for sure.
And you've taken this connection to the extreme, Eva, and you nominated yourself for Alone Australia. So, yeah, Shannon and I are fangirling right now after binging that. And I will admit I've watched it twice now in preparation for this interview.
Had you watched a season before
I'd
this one?
never watched Alone before, and I was fascinated and I couldn't stop watching. We're not going to give any spoilers away, but my first question is, or the first experience I want you to share is, Shannon really loves talking about rats on this podcast. So you had a little bush rat experience?
Oh my God. So that bush rat experience was about 5 days that they consolidated into like that 5 minutes on that episode. So there was a whole saga. So the first thing that I noticed was, yeah, that my toothbrush wasn't where I left it. And then I could hear like little things the second night, and I was like, cool, whatever this little critter is, it's living in with me. And it took me a few days to actually find where it was. And I had actually built my shelter, like I was backing onto some juncus grass, and it had its cute little nest like at the bottom. So I built my shelter on top of his home. So it's fair enough that he came and took my toothbrush, but I did actually try and get a rock and like throw it on him so that I could eat him and get my toothbrush back. But he was too fast. But then I got my toothbrush back and realized that's what was going on. But it was a pretty big bush rat, like a really cute, fluffy kind of brown bush rat. Yeah, decent size.
Cute.
I've been a big fan of the Alone franchise well before the Australian series was even part of it. Was it what you expected?
I'm gonna say, look, it's yes and no, because I guess in my mind, I was going to be having like a longer term living off the land experience where I was going to be able to get myself trout and eel and be able to forage, on all of the little creepy crawlies and carbohydrates. But my location was definitely quite scarce, and so I knew it was going to be difficult. Like, they don't want you out there forever, but I was expecting to be able to eat a little bit more. So that definitely took me by surprise. Like the lack of the lack of food in my particular area, which is really interesting, rewatching it back and seeing all the other locations and being a little bit jealous of some of them as well. But like, you can't pick that. Like, we're around the same lake, but there's like a 50 something kilometer like distance between the furthest 2 points, and ecology varies a lot. So it is what it is. It was still an incredibly beautiful, amazing personal experience for me. And of course, a lot of that will just be mine to hold forever because they can only show little snippets. But yeah, I think yes and no. I was definitely expecting to be eating while I was out there. So in that regard, I didn't go out to starve. Like, I was in it for the long run if I was getting food, but not getting food, I didn't have a strong attachment to being the winner. And for me, it was just a beautiful opportunity to go and deepen my relationship with myself and this new wild Tassie that I'd never been to before. So that was pretty cool.
I noticed your position. Well, actually, it wasn't just your position. It was the difference in people's positions when they go into it. And this season's not the only one where it happens, but there are people who go in wanting to become part of the land that they're living and being welcomed into the ecosystem there. And then there's other people who go in there with the view of, I'm going to conquer this.
For sure.
I think it was pretty obvious where you sat on that spectrum. I wonder how you feel as somebody who went in with an exceptional level of skills. This is not foraging, collecting wild meat, hunting. This is not something that is foreign to you. And there was some people who talked about, having ethical issues around killing animals and that kind of stuff. Where does that sit with you? And I'm wondering what your experience is during your time there around feeling connected to this foreign environment. I've heard you speak often about your connection to where you live and your current environment. But how did you find that going into a completely foreign place with different plants and different animals and completely different ecosystems than you'd ever experienced?
Honestly, the first few days, I felt like I had just landed on a different planet. It was so interesting. Like, I don't think I'd ever quite, I've been traveling to lots of places around this country, but it's different when you're like dropped there by boat and you know that that's going to be your home and you haven't got to know it first. It's like there's no preparation of getting to know this place and the feeling of it. And, it's just like you're there. And that was definitely interesting for me. I really was, the first few days, I was really feeling like missing my sandstone ecology. I was like, I miss my home that I know that can provide me food and I'm familiar. And so that was certainly something that was alive and that was there for me. But it's funny, like definitely like probably halfway through, like once I'd built my shelter and once I got my daily rhythms of, I'd get up in the morning and go to the creek and get my water and put my fire on. And I had these little rhythms that I was in and, just getting used to the birds and getting familiar with the sounds, because that's what people don't get. It's like the sounds and the smells and the textures and the sights, they're all so foreign. So it is a lot to get your brain and your mind to get used to a place so that your nervous system doesn't feel like, where are we, what's going on, but it can actually plug in. And I definitely felt like that happened whilst I was out there. Yeah, they didn't show this on the series, but there was a point where I got a frog and I killed the frog because I wanted to use it as bait. And that actually, I don't know if it was because I was like 12 days of no food and just totally very, raw and unfiltered, but I was really sad about killing that frog. And I was like, I feel like I've just come onto this land and I haven't taken my time getting to know it. I'm here utilizing all the materials and I was trying to be particular about which things I harvested and how I was harvesting them. But I felt like it wasn't like a fully slow kind of getting to know a place and then letting it provide for you. It was like I was there. I was there to get food. And there was something in it that I was feeling on a visceral level that didn't quite feel like a really natural way of living with a landscape. And that's going to vary from person to person as well. But that's just my experience with that. I think it takes time to get to know a place, and it's an intimate thing to survive off country. Like that's a very intimate, you're asking a lot. And yeah, so it was certainly, it's a very unique experience in that sense that there's no lead up. You're kind of just dropped there. So yeah.
Your birthday cake was something that my daughter wanted to ask you about. I did see what was the green plant on top?
Usnia.
I'm concerned that this was a mud cake, and I've seen a video of you teaching people about how you can live off the earth and where to get medicine from. And this was you said it was quite potent and you probably shouldn't eat big chunks like that. You didn't eat your cake, did you?
Well, I didn't, sadly.
My daughter will be happy with that. We were a bit worried about you.
At that point, I would have been close, but no, dirt still wasn't that appealing yet.
I felt for you. How many days did you go without, they say days without protein. How many days did you go?
Yeah, it was 17 days without protein.
17 days. I can't go without lunch. And my questions, again, deep questions. When the cameramen come to save you, do they have sandwiches in their bag, or do you have to do that interview without food?
Oh, absolutely not. No. So even when they come and do the med check, like it's very kind of sterile. They're not really engaging with you on a relational level because they want you to feel like you're not having any social interaction. So it was all very interesting, that side of things. After I did tap out and on the boat home, I did get to have a drink of bone broth. And let me tell you, that was the best bone broth I've ever had in my life because your taste buds are so like stripped back. So the ginger and the salt was just like, oh my goodness, it was really so enjoyable.
Lovely. And just two more questions, or a question and a statement before you get to the real deep stuff, Shan. How did Shay get a Band-Aid?
Okay, so all of us are given first aid kits, like because this show has lots of insurance legalities that they have to tick in order to let 10 people off loose surviving in the wild, and so all of us have to have a medic kit with us, but we're not allowed to use it for anything else. And they literally like count and have track of every item that's in that, and if we've used anything without proving that we used it for like actually like dressing a wound or something, then you can get disqualified. So yes, that's the mysterious Band-Aid.
Right. Because you can only take 10 things, and I thought taking one Band-Aid was an interesting choice. What did you take?
So I've got to remember them all. I took my knife and my sleeping bag. I took an extra tarp. I took my saw, my axe, my pot, my cooking pot, a ferro rod, of course, fishing gear. What else?
String. Everyone had string.
Yeah, did I say paracord?
Yep, paracord.
Sorry.
Yep. No, she hadn't said paracord yet.
I know what paracord is because Charlie makes me stuff out of paracord.
It does.
Nice key rings. Yeah.
So convenient, and they didn't show it, but I used so much of that for my shelter. So I was getting the inner strands out of the paracord as well, and like making a net as well. The inner strands are really good for net making, so it's definitely good to take paracord because then you can use that outer sheath to tie up, and then you can still utilize all those little inner strands.
And can I say, and this is the comment I was going to make, your shelter, your bed, wow, very impressive. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I did love it was very simple, but I felt so cozy in there. Like I could stand up, I was raised off the ground, like I was so comfy, and I had my little fire pit like just in their door. So it was really quite warm in there and quite cozy.
All right, Shannon, you can talk about deep stuff now.
No, there's a couple of other questions I want to know. Were you ever scared? Like there was nights there where I assume that when you're by yourself, nights feel a bit longer if you're not sleeping well in a foreign place. And there were some nights with some pretty wild weather. Were there ever times that you were like, oh, this is not feeling great?
Yeah, so any kind of like unsettled feeling definitely came from the wind down there because obviously my location, I chose to be on top of that little mound, and it was quite open there. Back behind me in the forest, it was just so thick and there was no flat grounds. It was super muddy. So I knew that I wanted to be somewhere quite open. But yeah, the con of that means that I was going to cop a lot of the wind. And oh my goodness, I had never experienced wind quite like that. In my mind, I created this wind creature that because I heard it would start in the canopy across from me and it would kind of do this loop and it would circle around the canopies, and then I knew that it was going to come and rattle my tarps, and then it would come and it would do that, and I was just envisioning it's pouring rain right now. What happens if my tarps just like get totally lifted up? I was already thinking about a hollow log that I'd spotted like earlier on that I could potentially go in for the night, like if I had to. So obviously there was a lot of long nights, like just with the wind and the rain. And, I feel for the folks who are out there for the long haul, because even just, 17 days of that it was a lot. Like it was really a lot. So yeah, I was fine in my shelter, held strong, but definitely some long nights of like, wow, am I gonna sleep tonight? I don't think so. How can we sleep when it's raining so like and when it's so windy down there? So that was definitely pretty wild encounters with the wind and the rain down there.
The other thing I wanted to know is, what is it like having to film yourself? So this is a two-parted question. Like, what goes into that on a daily basis, having to film your activities? And the second part is, how much does that take away from your experience of feeling connected and taking in your environment?
It's really interesting. It's really complex. And again, I think it really varies from person to person. I did struggle with the gear for the first little bit, because we're learning how to use like 3 new cameras, and there's so many little things you have to make sure they're all recording and make sure they all have battery and make sure you've got all the angles. And it's like you are out there literally like trying to be okay, trying to survive, and you have to be on top of that. And it's amazing. Some of the people like throughout the series do incredible jobs at the footage that they get, which baffles me, especially the ones that are taking down like large game animals and things like that. I'm like, that's so impressive. But yeah, I mean, part of it was kind of cool because it felt like being able to speak was a really cool way of like processing. It was almost like talk therapy or something. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like, cool, I have this thing, the screen that I'm looking into and talking to, and that was helpful just to be. It felt like kind of like a vocal diary entry or something. So that was the cool component of it. But absolutely, it felt like your mind constantly is thinking about, okay, if I'm gonna go for a fishing trip or go do this or do that, which cameras am I going to take? Okay, how am I going to take those 3? Like, and stopping along the way to set one there and set one there. So it does definitely take you into camera mode, and that obviously takes you out of full connection mode with the landscape, what's happening around you. Yeah, so it definitely interferes with that. I mean, if you were out there on your own with no cameras, it'd be a very different experience.
How alone do you feel knowing that there's a crew not too far away that you can call? Does it impact the experience of feeling alone, or is that alone feeling really present from the time you see that boat drive away?
I mean, it's interesting. Like, yes, you're completely alone, but I was so aware that I had 9 other companions who were actually having the same experience as me. And that was actually really comforting and really reassuring in some of the really intense nights out there. I was like, I wonder how the other 9 are going right now. Like, I wonder like if they're comfy and cozy, and that kind of made it a unique experience again, because 9 other people were doing the same thing. So you knew that you weren't actually having this one-off unique experience on your own, because on this same body of water scattered along it was 9 other people. And I really loved that. Even though we couldn't like, yeah, talk to each other or have any communication, it was still a really comforting feeling. And again, it is really cool because you're having this wild survival experience, but you actually have the safety of, like, if something happens, if there's an emergency, you can get out of there, you can get help straight away. So that is unique as well. Like, yes, you're in the middle of nowhere, but also safety can come to you if something happens. So that's kind of quite reassuring as well. Like, I think it just helps know that, yeah, there is backup there to support you if need be.
Such a mental game wondering how many people are still there. The whole time I was thinking, oh, do they know that there's only, this many people left or...
And like, that's the thing, we didn't know until we watched this with everyone else. Like, we were like, oh, wow. Like, so we all had no idea. And even we got to watch the grand finale together, in Sydney. And that was just so cool because we had no idea. Like, I definitely had my bets on Shay because he's just like, if you've seen his YouTube videos and things, he's just so incredibly at home in the bush, and he's been doing it since he was a teenager. And yeah, I felt like his meaning of why he wanted to stay out there was pretty significant for his family, and that would be a really powerful drive. But yeah, we had no idea. So it was cool, like, kind of figuring it out along the way and seeing it all unfold with everyone.
He struggled too, though, and it just goes to show what you were saying earlier about how this land is just so different. You couldn't prepare for going to a completely different place and for the ecology around. Is that the right word?
Yes. I was thinking about you guys on our trip to Tasmania when I was at Corinna and we were camping on the Pyman River, and this little paddy melon literally hopped up to me. We'd bought some carrots at the farmers markets in Launceston, and we'd been chopping them up and cooking them in a stew on the fire, and I had them in my hand, and he seen them and he just hopped straight up to me. And I was thinking, oh my God, if Eva could only just see this.
Look how easy it is. Why did you find it so hard?
There's a whole thing about, wild animals being domesticated that needs to be addressed there. But then there was another time on the same trip when we were at Lake St. Clair, and it was sleeting and it was quite a yucky night, and we were in the little camp kitchen, and the possums just came in, and I was peeling a sweet potato, and he climbed up the leg of my chair, across my body, onto the table to take the sweet potato, and just sat there next to me eating it. And I thought, if Shay could see this.
Yeah, that's right. Although I'm definitely a little bit turned off by domestic animals that have been eating lots of domestic food.
And for them to feel that comfortable, these places are still classed as wilderness places, and for them to be that comfortable with human presence and know that there's food is quite concerning.
Doesn't take them long to learn. Even with Quentin the Quoll and Corinne, he learned very quick that there's food here.
It's hard to watch.
The quolls weren't as friendly. I put my trail camera out every single night while we were away, and just hoping to catch an image of a quoll or a devil, but I didn't. But I did see an eastern quoll in a tree, which I was pretty excited about, to see one in the wild.
Awesome. They're very elusive.
They are, and he wasn't sneaking in to get our food.
You didn't have any jerky though. Maybe you needed some jerky.
Oh, I should have got that paddy melon. I want to know what it was like coming home after that experience. And again, two-parted question. What did you miss from being there? And what was the thing you appreciated most about being back at home and in your own environment?
Yeah, that's a good question. I actually, after I left the refeeding program and everything, I actually hung out with a friend for another few weeks down in Tassie, so I could actually get to know more of it outside of that experience. And so it was 5 weeks that I was away from home altogether, and coming home was really interesting. It was because usually at home our lives are very full, we're very busy, offering things, and the pace is very fast, and we're traveling here, there, and everywhere. And I had completely turned down my pace to a very slow and beautiful pace. And so I came home in that kind of really slow rhythm. And It was actually so beautiful just to have it felt like I was able to cocoon into the nest that I have up here because I'd told all of like social media that I was going to be away for a few months. So I just totally didn't need to go on social media for another month. And so I had a whole month of integration time, and it was really quite deep for me because my partner was working a lot. So I was still alone up here a lot of the time. And it was actually so beautiful just to, yeah, to come back and realize how part of this landscape I feel here. Like, I feel like I'm like a limb up here, like I'm a tree. Like, I feel so connected to this particular ecology. And it really, I guess, reinstilled that sense of place and home ecology. Like, literally, like the sandstone and the familiar bird sounds, coming back to the lyrebirds and watching the sunset. Like, yeah, I feel like it just really solidified my connection to this particular ecology. And of course, I love nature is beautiful and there's so many diverse ecologies to witness around the world. And I think they're all amazing, but there's something to be said for feeling like you are truly belong to a particular area and a particular bioregion. And I think that's probably what most Indigenous folks experience, when they were traveling around and being fed by the same animals and plants and walking the same tracks. And so it really reinstilled, yeah, I just think it refreshed my in loveness for this place that I feel lucky enough to call home. Yeah, did I answer the question?
Yes, you did. And I think you did it in a beautiful way. And I'm just going to jump down a little rabbit hole while we're there. When you talked about that sense of connection, like Indigenous people feel connected to the land, I really wanted to highlight that because I don't know if that's something as a culture or even as a nation we understand. Like we talk about land in a sense of ownership, and I really think it would cease a lot of the debates around Indigenous people when we start to understand that when they talk about my land or our land, they're not talking about ownership, they're talking about belonging. And to hear you say that, and I think it's important for people who are not Indigenous, which I know that you have Irish and Welsh background, for people who are non-Indigenous to talk about that sense in feeling a belonging to the land. And while we may not experience it in the same way, the more we talk about having that experience, I think the more that people who aren't rewilding or appreciating nature or significant places will start to understand that there is a very, very complete difference to the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really wish that for as many people as possible because we are in an interesting time, like post colonization, and we don't have bloodlines tied to this particular place, but we were born here, and yeah, we are just by breathing here and eating off this land, this is home for us as well. And
Mm-hmm.
to be able to learn off, Indigenous folks and be inspired by their culture that is of this land. Like, I really wish that for everyone because it's really our birthright. Like, wherever we go in the world, we all stand back to some kind of ancestral land-based history. And so we are from the land, whether it be, yeah, here or somewhere across the seas. And I think it's so important not to, yeah, I meet some people who feel like afraid to connect because they feel like it's not their place. And that's so fair enough. But all I've ever been welcomed with within, Indigenous communities is like, welcome. Like, you were born here, let's connect, let's move forward together with strong relationship to the land. And we want to share our culture with you, we want to share our stories with you so that it keeps it alive. And I think that is so important right now. Yeah.
Everybody carries that ancestral wisdom. And the more we understand about our own, the more we can connect and appreciate
Yeah.
the ancestral wisdom of the people who are living around us. And it's all different and we all come from different places. I think that's part of what makes this country magic. And when talking about tying everything back to nature, there is no ecosystem that survives without diversity.
That's right.
So I think it's the more it's embraced and the more that people can understand that, I think the healthier our human ecosystem will be.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
You guys sound so smart. How do you know all of this?
So it's really interesting. This has been coming up a lot lately in just by either people that come to our workshops or like, yeah, other bigger conversations like this. And my answer is that it has been, I guess, I've been in a I've been in a lucky situation where I have not had to work a normal 9 to 5 job because I've chosen to have less money than the average person so that I can live a way that I want to. And so I really made that choice pretty firmly in 2017. And since then, it's, I guess, just, I think I was seeking out, when I was traveling around Australia, I was seeking out people to learn from. And it was never one person, it was bits and bobs from different people living in different ways. And then after 2020, when I was living on land and could really apply a lot of those things, that's when I started kind of finding more people within the rewilding scene who were running workshops on foraging, workshops on traditional tanning, and getting to go and have some cultural experiences as well. So it's really been a mixture of all of those things, plus a lot of books. I really like, nothing beats the real thing, but books are definitely really help. It's helped me broaden my perspective and even use language and terminology around things that I resonate with, like all the land-based living and the reciprocity. And it's given me language to help articulate how I feel, and also just my own time out there, like my own experiences. Like, I think we are, yeah, it's kind of sad. Like, we're not born into the village anymore. We're not born into with the aunties and uncles and elders there to teach us all of these things that we need to know. And so you're kind of trying to pick up little pieces from here and there and everywhere and gather them all in a little bundle and weave it all together to try and make meaning from it all. So
Trial and error, learning from mistakes. I saw a few people on Alone Australia eating that curly plant. Don't do that.
totally.
What was it called?
The batwing fern.
You don't eat that. Mm-mm.
I think maybe we might dive into. I know that wild beings was something that was in existence prior to you going into your alone experience. But do you want to tell us a little bit about how it started? And I think it's pretty obvious the passion that drives it, but what it offers and what you get from being able to share these experiences with others.
Yeah. So in 2020, when all the crazy stuff was going down, I was so fortunate to be living in a bell tent on my aunt's 100-acre land out in Paynes Crossing, so just a bit up from here.
Yeah.
And that backed onto Yango National Park. And at that point, I'd been living outside for, I think, 4 years. So I hadn't lived in a house in a very long time. But that was the first time that I had been in one place for 4 seasons. And that was really incredible for me to be still and really grounding in all of the kind of knowledge and experiences that I'd had in the years leading up to that. And so I guess it stemmed from my relationship to that land out there and wanting to share it, because I was like, I would be having like a nature journal of tracking, what new birds would come and really paying attention to the seasons. And we were doing lots of like bush regen out there and lots of things that were just kind of, I was like, I want to share this with people. Like, people need to feel what it feels like to have that connection to place and be aware of the birds and be aware of the bush tucker around and pay attention to the patterns. I guess I was just really, the fire of wanting to share was very alive out there. And so that's when, I founded Wild Beings. And then since then, it has just been a really beautiful organic journey of growing over the years. So we run a few different things. So essentially we run camps where we're teaching people practical skills around survival and bushcraft, and ancestral skills, but we're doing it from a lens of let's kind of approach the landscape as part of the landscape rather than this is a survival situation and we need to do these things so that we can get out of here. So I have lots of friends in the survival industry and I love it, but it's just a slightly different angle that we're coming in from. And a lot of the skills we call land-based living skills because they're skills like, foraging, hunting, and, how to preserve food, how to make clothes from animal hides and fiber craft like weaving. And I'm really passionate about getting that connection through hands-on skills because that is how you learn. Okay, like the Gaimea lily and the stringy bark, like they're great fiber plants, but you wouldn't know that unless you were trying to utilize them for that. And like your bush medicines, like the G-balm bark and black wattle for tannins, like you wouldn't know that unless you had to use it. And so I love like the pathways that learning how to use these different things awaken. And then all of a sudden, the bush isn't some foreign thing with abstract plants and animals. It's like you start to become really familiar with what you can utilize around you. And of course, making sure that you're doing that from a lens of reciprocity. And we forage a lot of invasive weeds, and obviously they're not amazing for the land, even though they're trying to help the soil. So things like that, like just trying to bring awareness around the land provides everything that we need. And it's just about knowing how to find that in a way that is not harmful for the landscape. So we do an earth skills gathering twice a year. And we do a women's rewilding gathering twice a year. And then in between, like we do things with bush school where we do stuff with kids, and we do family camps and intro to hunting and traditional tanning. And I think the consistency of us doing similar things every year, that has really helped us grow, and word of mouth as well. Like, so it's just been really incredible. Like the connections that we have made have been so beautiful, and it's really reinstilled my faith and hope in humanity. Like I think I'm living in this little rewilding bubble, like because I feel very lucky, like to just be exposed to so many beautiful humans who share that same deep devotion for the land and wanting to live as close to it as possible. So I think that is what it gives me. And also the feeling when you see someone like light a fire with their hands for the first time, it never gets old. Like the look in their eyes that they just did that with their own hands and with materials from the bush. It's something so, I guess, primal and ancient that we also can't find in the modern world. So offering spaces that, I guess, allow people to reignite that feeling is really special. And something that we have realized over the last year or so is that people come for the skills, but then they actually, something much deeper happens. Like, that sense of deep connection and deep healing as well. Like, so that's really special. That's not us. That's just creating space and then the land doing the rest. Yeah.
Shannon, I really enjoyed my ghost weekend away. I did. But this is next. Let's do this.
Yeah, I think maybe after this episode we might put it out. What dates are the next women's workshops?
Yeah, so it's in November. It's a 4-night and 5-day one, which is really amazing because you get to go a bit deeper. So it's the 27th of November to the 1st of December, the next women's one. And we run them on the Central Coast.
Okay.
Yes.
That's still close.
I'm keen.
Yeah. And we might just put it out and see, like, if there's some listeners that want to come too. So We might just book out the whole workshop.
Well, that'll be a lot of fun. You guys can get to relive your own kind of survival alone experience.
It would be amazing. I was just listening to you speak then, and the whole time I'm watching this circle move around in my mind of you talking about being someone who felt so disconnected from the world and yourself and community to being someone who is actually facilitating connection and growth for other people. It is a full magic, full circle moment.
It really is. Like, yeah, it's kind of cool how it's all happens like that. Like, I remember in high school, I used to get my mum to write me letters to the teacher so that I didn't have to public speak and that I didn't have to do any speeches or anything. Like, I was so terrified. I just hated that kind of attention. And it was really interesting just when I was like, cool, I'm going to start running workshops, and how naturally it just came, because it's like something deeper than me. It's like this beautiful, something bigger than self that I guess gives you the confidence and the passion to just go with it.
Just speaking to you now, it's hard to believe that you're an excellent public speaker. But like you said, that comes with confidence and passion. And I've spoken before how a passionate person can make me so interested in things I never thought that I was going to be interested in.
Rats.
Rats, yes. Pretty much everything you talk about.
Bubonic plague.
I didn't know I was so interested in the plague.
It's so true. There's definitely like the storytelling, like bringing those things to life. It's definitely a lot more inspiring to listen to than just like a very robotic kind of lesson or something. Like, yeah, it's really cool.
We will make sure that we pop all of the details for the Wild Beings programs and Eva's Wellbeing podcast, talking about not being a public speaker, now hosting your own podcast, in our show notes, along with Eva's socials. But if it's something that you do want to check out, you can go to wildbeings.org and Wild Beings podcast on Spotify, Apple.
Yeah, I'm so like still figuring the whole podcast thing out. So I know it's definitely on Spotify and Apple, and there are some episodes on YouTube, but not all of them.
Okay, great, wonderful. Look, mate, you don't have to explain to us. If you build it, they will come. It doesn't matter whether it's a workshop or a podcast, or you just start it and it ends up exactly where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's so true.
Thank you so much, Eva, for chatting with us this afternoon. It has been an absolute delight and so much fun. You're heading up north for a little while, escaping the winter.
Yes, yeah. So it's really funny. Like when I told everyone last year that I was going on a big hike, it was a lie, but it wasn't a full lie, because every winter my partner and I, we do take some of the winter off and just not run any workshops and like have some kind of adventure. And so this year, yeah, we're going up to Arnhem Land for 5 weeks, and yeah, it will be our first time in that particular part of Arnhem Land. So really looking forward to meeting that landscape and the animals and the culture and folks up there.
That would be amazing. So we might need to check in after your 5-week adventure, because I'll want to hear about that as well.
For sure. Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Eva. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been really lovely.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of If These Trees Could Talk. If you would like to access more about the places or information included in today's topic, please visit our website, ifthesetreescouldtalk.com.au. If you would like to follow us on our adventures, check us out on Facebook or Insta. Our creative writer is Shannon Walters, and our podcast is produced at Bellevue Studio in the Hunter Valley with audio production by Megan Anderson. We love to hear your feedback, so please rate and review, and if you would like to hear more, please subscribe. We look forward to you joining us for our next adventure.